the wireless phone, the mobile phone, the cell phone, the smartphone. No matter what you call them, there's no denying the impact they've had on the world. From drastically altering the way we communicate with one another to changing how we interact face to face. Hello, my name is Ellis Barnes, and I'm an undergraduate student at the University of North Carolina, Wilmington. In this video, I will argue that for all the good cell phones have brought, if not handled with care, tendencies of overuse can lead to inattentiveness, memory loss, and mental health issues. Looking at multiple studies that are in conversation with one another and yield similar results, I will show the potential danger that can occur from the devices that have become such a staple in our society. If we aren't cautious, it can become very easy to overlook the risks associated with cell phone use considering how much we use them every day. Alrighty, time to get this paper done. In a scholarly article called "The Mere Presence of the Cell Phone May Be Distracting Implications for Attention and Task Performance," a man named Bill Thornton mentions, "It is interesting that simply the presence of a cell phone may have the potential for an equivalent detrimental effect. This is because of what cell phones represent. With a cell phone in hand, one has access to a broad social and informational network at the tip of their hands. The phone itself elicits an awareness of a wider social network that one is not a part of at the moment. The external stimuli evoked by our phones causes our minds to wander of what could be and interferes with any immediate situation at hand." The research conducted by Bill Thornton measured task-oriented performance and attention in the presence of a cell phone. The results showing an extreme deficit in attention and performance when multitasking between a range of activities, between driving, walking, learning, or working. Although this could be said of any distraction when multitasking, it's especially so for phones because they're so prevalent in our lives. It's important to be aware of this effect because phones are a distraction whether we know it or not. I see it every day too. In and out of class, kids on their phone instead of socializing with one another. Whenever I go home, everybody's on the couch on their devices separately. It's important to be aware so we can function in society. Don't let our phones get in the way. Some coffee would be good right now. Let's make some. What was I about to do? Their presence was shown to impair the long-term memory of the participant eyewitnesses and cause disruption via the presence of an intermittent conversational background speech. That was a quote from my boy John Marsh in his article, "Chatting in the Face of the Eyewitness, the Impact of Extraneous Cell Phone Conversation on Memory for a Perpetrator." Marsh's research consisted of tests that used 96 college students being shown 4 versions of the same video of a staged crime with cell phone conversations in the background. After being shown the videos, the participants were asked to recall the perpetrator's facial features. It was found that the longer and more meaningful conversations being held on the cell phones in each video made it more difficult for participants to accurately depict the criminal's face. This was true for all forms of recollection, be it verbal recall or a composite likeness test, but this article speaks to Thornton's article, and that we are constantly being distracted by our phones between their use, a passing conversation, or their presence alone. The fact that it affects our memories is something that warrants caution. How are we supposed to function in our day-to-day lives if our phones limit our memory as well?
Hey, Billy, wanna hang out?
No thanks, I've already got plans. The last risk that can be associated with the overuse of cell phones are the mental health risks. In her article, "Phone Addiction is Real and So Are Its Mental Health Risks," Alice Walton mentions research done by Russell Clayton, which found that when out of contact with their phones, the subjects in question performed worse on mental tasks when they were in withdrawal and felt physiological symptoms like increased heart rate and blood pressure. Because of the cell phone's ability to connect us to a vast social and informational network that we take part in daily, we treat our cell phones as extensions of the self. We have come to rely on them so much that we almost become emotionally attached, and any loss of the self, even just our cell phones, can have mental repercussions. Walton's article also contained research that showed people who used their phone less throughout the day had a lower risk for both depression and suicide. Not to say that cell phone use is inherently bad, but if we use them daily to the point where there are mental effects subconsciously, we should be wary and manage how much time we devote to them. Ultimately, I don't believe this research warrants cause for a crusade against cell phones. With how incorporated they are into our society and how much they have changed the way we communicate and access information, there's no denying that the cell phone has become a staple of the 21st century. Despite the positives that come with cell phones, when considering the research previously discussed, we should caution ourselves with their use so that when we utilize their capabilities, we are not consumed and affected by the day-to-day risks of distractedness, memory loss, and mental health issues. I'm Ellis Barnes, and I approve of this argument.